He was the Iron Sheik, the villain we love to hate. But behind that tough exterior, there was a real man with a life full of twists and turns you wouldn't believe. From bodyguard to the Shah to wrestling superstar, and then living the worst tragedy, this wrestling legend did it all. It is time we uncover the real story of the Iron Sheik. Born in Iran, the Iron Sheik, whose real name was Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri, didn't start out in the wrestling ring. He was actually a really successful amateur wrestler, even serving as a bodyguard for the Shah of Iran. Eventually, he made his way to the US and stepped into the world of professional wrestling. And man, did he make a splash. With his signature handlebar mustache, shaved head, and those incredible submission holds, he quickly became a fan favorite. In 1983, the Iron Sheik reached the peak of his career when he defeated Bob Backlund to become the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. It was a huge moment, not just for him, but for wrestling fans around the world. But life outside the ring wasn't always easy for the Iron Sheik. He was always a part of some terrible controversy that risked his reputation and legacy. What exactly could he have done? Let's uncover. Imagine this. It's 1987, the peak of the WWF's golden era. The Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan are bitter rivals, constantly clashing in the ring, representing opposing ideologies. Evil foreigner versus patriotic American. Then bam, they get pulled over by the cops, and guess what? They're both found with illegal drugs. This wasn't part of some storyline, it was real life. The Sheik was caught with cocaine, and Duggan had marijuana. It was a huge scandal, especially since these two were supposed to hate each other. The incident pretty much ended their feud, and the Iron Sheik was fired from the WWF. It was a messy situation that blurred the lines between their wrestling personas and their real lives. Sadly, the Iron Sheik's struggles with drug addiction were very real. He openly talked about his battles with cocaine, which caused him a lot of problems, both personally and professionally. Up next in his book of controversies, in his later years, the Sheik became this kind of Twitter legend. The dude would just let loose, no filter whatsoever. He'd call people every name under the sun, from jabroni to things I can't even repeat here. Hulk Hogan especially was always getting it from Sheik. It was hilarious, but also kind of shocking. You never knew what he was going to say next. Was it all an act? Was he just playing his heel character? Who knows, but it was definitely entertaining. Then there was always a discussion about his dark past that kept him in discussions. The Iron Sheik's life story was always a bit shrouded in mystery. He would tell these wild tales about his past in Iran, but some of the details were a bit fuzzy and contradictory. Even his birth date was uncertain. Some people questioned the accuracy of his stories, wondering if he was embellishing things to make himself seem more interesting. It's understandable that someone who spent their life in the world of professional wrestling might exaggerate a bit, but it did raise questions about how much of his backstory was actually true. This whole thing added to his mystique, I guess. He was this larger-than-life character, and the uncertainty about his past just made him even more intriguing. Moving forward, let's be honest, the Iron Sheik's character was pretty offensive to a lot of people. He was a stereotypical Middle Eastern villain who hated America and everything it stood for. He would wave the Iranian flag, insult American heroes, and generally act like a jerk. This was all part of his wrestling persona, of course, but it still rubbed some people the wrong way. It was a different time back then, and attitudes towards foreigners, especially those from the Middle East, were not very tolerant. The Iron Sheik played his role to perfection, and he definitely got a reaction from the crowd. But looking back, it's clear that his character relied on some pretty outdated and harmful stereotypes. But the most heartbreaking moment of the Iron Sheik's life came in 2003, when his oldest daughter, Marissa, was tragically murdered by her boyfriend. This unimaginable loss changed him forever, and he often spoke about the intense pain and grief he felt as a father. This tragedy revealed a much softer, more vulnerable side of the Iron Sheik, reminding everyone that behind the tough guy image was a real person who experienced profound heartbreak. It put everything in perspective. No matter how controversial he was still a loving father, devastated by a loss no parent should have to endure. As he aged, the Iron Sheik's life continued to be challenging. He faced serious health problems, like heart issues and the need for knee replacements, which made getting around in his later years really tough. Alongside his health battles, he also struggled financially, partly due to some unfortunate financial decisions that left him in a difficult spot. It's sad to think of someone who entertained millions going through these hardships in his later years, but it serves as a reminder that even for larger-than-life characters, life can be unpredictable and filled with ups and downs. Sadly, he passed away in 2023 due to a cardiac arrest. He was too fond of controversies, and we are too fond of his legacy. Because let's be real, no matter how shady or questionable his career was, he was a master in the ring. And what a what a shame to click away without listening to his terrific career and reliving his legacy. Born on March 15, 1942 in Iran, Sheik made his mark not just as a wrestler, but as one of the most memorable villains in WWE history. With his intense persona, his famous camel clutch move, and his powerful rivalries, Sheik's impact on wrestling is undeniable. He was the first and only Iranian champion in WWE history, winning the WWF World Heavyweight Championship in 1983. But let's go back to where it all began. Hossein was born into a working-class family in Damghan, Iran. Money was tight, and they didn't even have running water. Despite the hardships, young Hossein was inspired by Gholam Reza Takhti, an Olympic wrestling champion and Iranian hero. This inspiration pushed him into amateur wrestling, where he made a name for himself. Before wrestling, he even worked as a bodyguard for the Shah of Iran, which gives us a sense of his strength and loyalty. Hossein competed for a spot on Iran's Greco-Roman wrestling team for the 1968 Olympics. However, after Takhti's mysterious death, Hossein began to fear for his own safety and decided to make a life-changing move to the United States. In 1972, Hossein was invited by promoter Verna Gagne to train as a professional wrestler. It was here that he developed his signature style. He shaved his head, grew a dramatic mustache, and wore those unique curled-toe boots, which were inspired by traditional Iranian footwear. He took on the name the Iron Sheik and began using his Persian heritage as part of his character. The timing couldn't have been better, or worse, depending on your perspective, since the Iranian Revolution was causing political tension, which helped add a layer of controversy to his character. The Iron Sheik became known for swinging Persian clubs, a traditional Iranian exercise tool, challenging other wrestlers to match his strength. His moveset, his loud patriotism for Iran, and his heated interviews with the crowd soon made him one of the most despised villains in wrestling. In 1979, Sheik made his debut in the World Wrestling Federation. He quickly made a mark by winning the first ever Battle Royal at Madison Square Garden, earning him a shot at the championship against Bob Backlund. Although he didn't win, he began feuding with popular wrestlers like Bruno Sammartino and Chief Jay Strongbow, leaving a lasting impression with fans. But it was in 1983 that he made history by defeating Backlund to become the WWF World Heavyweight Champion, marking the first and only time an Iranian held the title. He held on to the championship for a short period until a match with Hulk Hogan changed everything. The Iron Sheik's rivalry with Hulk Hogan is the stuff of wrestling legend. At Madison Square Garden, Sheik faced Hogan in a match that would change wrestling history. When Hogan broke free from Sheik's signature camel clutch move and hit his famous atomic leg drop, the crowd went wild. Hogan won the championship, and the Hulkamania era was born. It was the perfect clash of good versus evil that skyrocketed Hogan into stardom and cemented the Iron Sheik as one of the most hated heels in wrestling history. In the mid-1980s, Sheik formed a tag team with another villain, Nikolai Volkov. Together, they were a perfect pairing. Sheik represented Iran, and Volkov waved the Soviet flag, which stirred the crowd like no other duo. Managed by the unforgettable Freddie Blassie, Sheik and Volkov would taunt the crowd before each match, with Volkov singing the Soviet anthem and Sheik yelling, "Iran #1, Russia #1, USA," followed by a mock spit. Their partnership paid off at WrestleMania, where they won the WWF Tag Team Championship by defeating the US Express. They were among the most despised teams, and every match seemed to turn into a showdown of national pride, with the audience booing louder with every insult. Then the drug case happened and he was fired. But luckily, Sheik returned to the ring again. After a break from wrestling, the Iron Sheik made an epic return to WWF on February 18, 1988. He came back with a bang, taking on S.D. Jones at the Meadowlands Arena in New Jersey and winning in style, proving he still had what it took. From there, he stayed busy at WWF live shows, facing off against wrestlers like Lanny Poffo, Ken Patera, and even the powerhouse Bam Bam Bigelow. Though he lost to Bigelow, Sheik's comeback was already making fans excited. Even though he was back in the ring, Sheik didn't show up on TV for a while. Fans didn't get to see him on their screens until July 18th, when he finally had a match against Scott Casey on the Primetime Wrestling and won. Over the summer, Sheik kept going strong, wrestling Casey again and taking on new opponents like Richard Charlin and the Red Rooster in arenas across the US and Canada. Fans noticed he wasn't quite as quick as he used to be, and there were even some comments about him putting on a bit of weight, but Sheik didn't seem to care. He went ahead and even called out Macho Man Randy Savage, the WWF World Champion at the time. Unfortunately, that match didn't happen, and by July, Sheik was out of WWF again. But Sheik's journey wasn't over. Outside of WWF, he kept wrestling in different leagues and taking on big names. In 1987, 1997, he joined World Class Championship Wrestling in Dallas, where he fought Matt Bourne for the Texas Heavyweight Championship. After that, he did short stints in the American Wrestling Association, where he reignited his old rivalry with Sergeant Slaughter, and in Puerto Rico's World Wrestling Council, where he took on Tony Atlas. The Iron Sheik truly became a traveling wrestling star, taking his fierce style and memorable personality to fans all around the world. From famous rivals to fresh faces, Sheik gave his all in every match, proving his passion for wrestling never faded, no matter where he went. In August 1989, Sheik teamed up with Ron Simmons and showed up on Paulie Dangerously's Danger Zone talk show. He hinted he was training Simmons and helping him find a tag team partner, but the storyline faded, and Simmons eventually teamed up with Butch Reed to form the tag team Doom. Sheik wrapped up his time in WCW in January 1990 with a few house show matches. After a 7-month break, Sheik returned in July 1990 due to a contract renewal mix-up. He faced Mike Rotunda at the Great American Bash, though he didn't win. Through 1990, he wrestled stars like Brian Pillman and Big Van Vader, ending his WCW run with a match against Junkyard Dog on January 26, 1991. In March 1991, Sheik came back to the WWF with a new character, Colonel Mustafa. Teaming up with his former rival, Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan, he played the role of an Iraqi sympathizer during the Gulf War storyline, going up against Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. After SummerSlam 1991, when Slaughter turned face, Mustafa stayed with Adnan, but soon slid to lower card matches, often losing to popular wrestlers like Tito Santana and the British Bulldog. In 1992, Mustafa joined the Royal Rumble, aiming for the WWF World Championship. But his manager, General Adnan, soon left WWF, leaving Mustafa on his own. After his final WWF match on May 19th, where he defeated Reno Riggins, Sheik left once again. Even though his wrestling career was winding down, Sheik made occasional WWF appearances. In 1996, he managed the Sultan, and in 1997, co-managed Tiger Ali Singh alongside Tiger's father, Tiger Jeet Singh. By 2001, he returned for a special gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania X7, where he won against Hillbilly Jim. To fans' delight, his old rival Sergeant Slaughter even put him in a Cobra clutch right after the match. The Iron Sheik was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005, honored by none other than Slaughter himself. His final match took place on April 24, 2010 in Massachusetts, where he teamed up with Jay Lethal in a no disqualification match. Sheik's last in-ring moment came when he applied his signature camel clutch, wrapping up his career on his own terms. From his epic returns to his rivalries and feuds, the Iron Sheik became a wrestling legend. He may have taken some wild turns, but he never lost his signature charisma or fearless attitude. Even as he stepped out of the ring, Sheik's legacy lived on, showing fans that no matter how many times you leave, you can always come back and make an impact. Despite his controversies, the Iron Sheik's undeniable impact on wrestling and pop culture cannot be overstated. His unique character and the ability to evoke strong reactions from fans, both positive and negative, solidified his legacy. As he transitioned into a social media legend, his candidness and humor kept him relevant in the wrestling community long after his in-ring career ended. As we remember the Iron Sheik, let's celebrate his contributions to wrestling while also acknowledging the challenges he faced in life. His story is a reminder of the complexities behind fame, the triumphs, and the tragedies that shape us all. If you enjoyed exploring the life and legacy of the Iron Sheik, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more fascinating stories from the world of wrestling.